we'll just go from there, yeah? And so, your presentation work, just hit from current slide, and it should come up. At that point, actually do it now. And then at that point, the people at home should be able to see your screen, okay?
Yeah, can you say, can reduce the light or not?
Yes. Maybe.
At least in this area.
Yeah, that's dimmed it. There you go. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, welcome everyone. Happy New Year to those of you who I or Mohammed haven't seen since December. And welcome to the first Wednesday seminar of 2022. And welcome especially to Dr. Mohamed Kenawi, who is our speaker today. My name is Brandon Fathi. I'm a final year PhD student here in the School of Archaeology and History. And we're going to launch today a seminar series that will be happening every Wednesday from here until the end of the semester on the 30th of March. Yeah, so it's a weekly seminar. Now that the University and College Union global boycott has ended, we're able to have speakers from outside the university once again. But given the success of having so many internal speakers last term, we're having a balance of internal and external speakers again. So we see this as an exciting opportunity to still keep abreast with all the cool archaeology that's going on around the world in other organizations and universities. But at the same time, we really want to show off the really cool research that's happening within our own university and within our own department especially. So Mohamed will be the first of several internal speakers this semester in series as well. Yeah, we also have a number of Research Plus themes that we have coming up throughout the year. We'll go into that more later. For now, I just want to welcome everyone who's joining us online. Our kind of hybrid theming is pretty standard. And I also want to make sure everyone here, both online and in the theater, knows that this is being recorded. Yeah, so gentle language, please. After the seminar, you're all welcome to join us at the Marquis of Wellington on London Road. We'll walk over there together and we can continue any conversations after the presentation. Our speaker today is Dr. Mohamed Kenawi. He's a research associate here in the department, and he's also a research and training manager with the Endangered Archaeology of the Middle East and North Africa project. He's also a forming acting director of the Hellenistic Center of the Bibliotheca Alexandria. So we're really excited to have him talk about Egypt. And if you like his presentation, we get to have him again next month too. So yeah, he's a really big speaker. We're really happy to have him. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Kenawi.
Thank you very much. So I would like to start by presenting our site, which we started the excavation over 10 years ago now in the Western Delta in Egypt. And the reason why we wanted to work in the Delta is mainly because the focus of the archaeology in Egypt is concentrated onto Upper Egypt and the Pharaonic Egypt. And there are less number of archaeological missions who are working or dealing with Hellenistic Roman Egypt and in general in the Egyptian Delta. So there are very, very few missions working in the Delta because it's a little bit difficult to work in the Delta for different reasons related to the typology of the soil of the Delta, which is very wet almost all the year, and it's muddy as you can see. So, and the majority of the structure are built in mud brick, not in stone. So it's easy. It's not easy to excavate and to distinguish the structure from the just normal mud. So first of all, I would like to introduce the location of the two sites who are working. So we're 50 kilometers southeast of Alexandria, which is the location of Qom al-Ahmar and Qom Wasit, 35 kilometers southeast of the main port in that period, in the Hellenistic and early Roman period, Soins, Heraklion, where Oxford University is working underwater at the moment since also 10 years, and 25 kilometers south of Rosetta, and only 15 kilometers east of Scadia, which was a main Hellenistic Roman town in the Western Delta, because it was connecting the entire Egypt with Alexandria through a canal, an artificial canal, because Alexandria was at that moment still a semi-island from the geographical point of view. So this is the location of our two sites, and we can see them for the first time appearing on one of the earliest maps of the region from 1860 of Mahmoud Basha al-Falaki, who drew this map of Alexandria and of the surrounding sites. And we can see also note that the two sites were on the borders of a lake, which does not exist anymore today. So this means there was a very direct contact between the sites and the Mediterranean Sea, and which was confirmed later with the finds through our excavations. This is how the two sites appear today, surrounded by agricultural fields. Since 1930 and 1940, there was a second reclamation project in the area. So many French and Italian companies used to go to these archaeological sites in that area and to dig the structures in order to fertilize the new fields to be able to cultivate the fields. So this damaged many of the sites, and we will see this later in the next slides. From the Sabbakhin is an Arabic word, means the diggers of Sibakh, and Sibakh is a mud brick which is coming from the archaeological sites to be used to fertilize. From the Sabbakhin digs in 1930s, this marble statue was found and reached the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria, and it reached the museum with this number 25,062. Happened here, sorry. No. It's appearing here, it's fine. In that publication of 1935, 1930s, and with the find of this marble statue, more finds reached the Greco-Roman Museum, but they were never published. Among them, this inscription, which was published later in 1993, and this is the only inscription which is mentioning the name of the town Metelis or Metilite, which is the Roman name of the Hellenistic and Roman settlement. This is a photograph from 1942 of the Sabbakhin digs. So this is what used to happen in all the archaeological sites in Egypt in that period. The companies go and just remove entire structures which are built in mud brick just to be able to take the mud bricks and to be used to fertilize. And they were leaving the stones or fired bricks aside. And when a structure like this one is found, an archaeologist come from Cairo and check the structure if it's important to keep or no. And what happened here is that they found a large Roman bath, an imperial Roman bath complex in the site. So the Inspectorate of Cairo came and they dug the Roman bath, and they made one publication in 1949 about the Roman bath, which is still in situ today. Of course, it's shrunk a little bit, but it is the second largest Roman bath in Egypt after the one in Alexandria. In the second near site to Qom, which we are working in both of them at the same time, the same thing happened during the Sabbakhin digs. An interesting object was found in 1944, which is completely in bronze. This is a bronze tunnel, and it was ending beneath a pedestal in bronze, which was supposed to have holding on the top of that pedestal a statue of a god. So two reports were published in 1945 about this object as the oracle of the temple. So the priest used to speak through this tool so that the voice comes out from the statue of the god to the public in the temple, because this was an oracle temple as it appears. So these are the only finds we have from that period, and we were able to expose it in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo in 2018 during an exhibition which we organized. In the entire region, there are hundreds of sites surrounding Qom al-Ahmar and Qom Wasit. The majority of them are belonging to the Roman Hellenistic and Roman period. Some of them were visited by Benny Wells in 2004 and by myself and Maria DeVos in 2008, where the idea came for us to excavate and study these two sites. So first of all, we had done an intensive topography survey in between the two sites and on the two sites. And then here another view of satellite image of both the sites, and later on we were able to do a geophysics survey in the entire site of Qom Wasit, where we can see hundreds of structures appear, especially that large quadrant one here, which appears later to be the main temple of the site. We were able also to do some area photographs from that site. So you can see here absolutely nothing on the surface of the site. And in fact, many archaeologists in the area they never really give attention to that site because there was nothing. Even pottery shells were lacking in that site. But after the geophysics survey and topographic survey and the aerial photographs, we were able to have this view of the entire town beneath the mud, which is not appearing at all on the mud, of course, on the surface. So we have hundreds of houses. The main structure here is a temple enclosure wall and service area to the south and to the east of the site. We were not able to do the same work in the second site because the second site is still used today by the peasants of the area, so there's too much rubbish on the site, so we couldn't do geophysics survey or such work as we have done at Comwasit. Again, this is a general view of the entire site of Comwasit. And in red are the areas we decided to excavate, and we already excavated in the last 10 years at Comwasit. As you can see, we were trying to excavate in different areas to get information about the different function of different parts of the site, and we'll have a general look now because, of course, we can't go into detail on everything. So an example of the early Hellenistic houses, which is called tower houses. These were mainly 3 floors house built in mud brick. We had the base floor here and the underground floor, which was excavated in 2016 and 17 over 2 months, composed of 6 rooms. And this is a view of the house after the excavation. A second house was excavated in Comwasit, again dated to the 4th and 3rd century BC. And here an example of the objects coming from different rooms. So we don't have stone structures at all. Everything is built in mud brick, as you can see here in these 2 examples of houses. So we excavated those 2 houses to be able to have general information about the lifestyle on the site. From the domestic 2 structures, we have found different amulets coming from that context. So the amulets found in the house are different from the one found in the temple because they are mainly concentrating on the safety of the house and fertility for women and protecting the children from ghosts and devils, etc. So there are traditional amulets from all of the periods, from the Pharaonic period until the Hellenistic and Roman period, but there are some styles, of course, are different. So I have these small rings in bronze for the children mainly, so that they don't get lost in the town, etc. Female figurines, this is an example from female figurines and terracotta figurines coming from the 2 domestic houses, and one is made from limestone. And again, this is mainly for fertility reasons. And we have a researcher called Ulshka. She's studying this type of objects, and she published already in our volume detailed description of each object. Horse and rider figurines were found in both sides, and they are mainly Persian style, which were later adopted in Egyptian style in Hellenistic period, and they were mainly like toys for children, and sometimes some researchers think they were also used for sacrifices, but we are not really sure of that. Bronze objects coming from the domestic context again are mainly this spoon, but it's not a spoon, it's just a tool to burn inches like that inside the house, and bronze statues for gods, for the main gods in there. We have also a lot of imported materials from Asian islands in that period, from the 4th century and 5th and 4th century BC. And it's an example from the domestic context here, basket handle amphora from Cyprus and a handle from Samos. And of course, we have also 5th century AD materials from North Africa, like the African sigillata. Moving to the main part of the site, which is the temple area. This is the temple enclosure, and what is in red is the area we have excavated in the last years. We also were able to excavate a large part of the enclosure wall itself, as you can see, and different parts of the temple have different functions. So we have the entrance in Unit 5, and we have one of the rooms in Unit 7 and 13, a tower entrance in Unit 8, and a large platform in mud brick in Unit 4. The enclosure wall, and you can see that there are races in the wall because normally these walls were high of about 11 to 12 meters. So they had to do this type of races, which are presented today in the enclosure wall in the Ndara temple, so that the weight of the wall does not affect the stability of the wall. When we went to excavate here, in this next photograph, the soil is completely raised. So the Sabbahin who dug the site to remove the materials, they already removed the 12 meters height of the enclosure wall of the temple. But we were able to excavate to the foundation of the temple, and we went down 4 meters until we reached the foundation, which is still preserved well. It's a main platform where there was the naos of the temple located. And here we have an example where we could reach the foundation of the temple 4 meters in depth until we found another platform beneath the foundation of the temple. And this is the only evidence that there's something earlier than the temple in that area. Of course, this is the only space, this is the only spot of the site which we reached these steps, and we could not, of course, continue because to be able to explore that area, we need to remove part of the temple. So it's a little complicated. But at least we have an evidence that even the temple is dated to the late dynastic, early Hellenistic period. We have something from the earlier periods here. The type of amulets coming from the temple are higher quality, so they are better made, of course, because the temple must be the richest structure in the town. The temple was not only used as a temple for religious purpose, but it was also used as the bank of the town. So all taxes were paid in the temple. Anything related to the state was handled in the temple. So the temple was like an administration office also. So we have different higher quality materials from the temple and different type of bronze amulets and bronze objects coming from the temple, like the cobra and Osiris, and different legs of God Horus, because the temple probably was dedicated to God Horus, the main god in the entire area. Well, this type of hidden objects which we found inside one of the walls, and it's made of faience and decorated with gold water, and probably it was part of a dress which was used to cover a statue of a priest inside the temple. It was very fragile, so this is how we found it inside one of the walls. From the temple, we have also different imports. So the oldest object we found, or the earliest object we found, is that dish from East Ionia, dated to the 6th century BC, and different objects coming from the Aegean Sea. And from the Ptolemaic period, we have different imports like this one. And we move now to the third section of the site. So we have domestic, the temple, and a service area, which is a Hellenistic solos baths. A public bath composed of 2 solos. Each one has 18 hip-hop seats for 18 different persons. It's a style which was spread from Greece to Egypt in the 4th century BC. It was in Alexandria and the Delta and Fayoum and different parts of Egypt. And we were able to excavate the entire area of the bath over 3 years. And you can see from this photograph that later it was reused as a Roman cemetery. We will move to this later. So the reconstruction of how this type of solos bath used to function. So there was like seats, each person sat down inside, and they were showering with a small pots inside. And we were able to study the system of water. So we have the tank of the water, which is moving to another basin here, a filtration basin. And from here, the water go inside the bath itself, where people used to use pots or whatever tools they were using to have shower inside the public bath. From the third prison, which I just saw here, we had a close context of tens of augmentarium, imported augmentarium and Egyptian ones, which were mainly used for perfumes and creams inside the bath complex. This is a drainage system of the bath, which was excavated for the length of 27 meters to throw away the water. And also we found different systems for other structures which were using the same drainage system. And over the drainage canal, which you can see here, you can see all these cuts which were made later in the Roman period, because this area was reused later as a Roman cemetery, an early Roman cemetery. So I can see the sarcophagus in terracotta cutting the tube of the drainage canal of the bath complex here. Over the entire area, we have located around 17 or 18 sarcophagus, all dated to the early Roman period. So the entire site of Qom Wasit was abandoned by the end of the Hellenistic period, early Roman period, and the site was reused as a cemetery for the inhabitants of Qom al-Ahmar, which is just one kilo and a half away from Qom Wasit. So we have different types of different typologies of burying here in terracotta like this, or just the bones or the body inside part of the bath complex. Or here we have the sarcophagus and covered with amphorae like a decoration. So this is an example. We found two examples of these ones. This by removing them, and the amphorae were all dated to the 2nd century AD and reused, and they were all put upside down, as you can see. And this is one of the longest type of Egyptian amphora, which is 1 meter and 40 centimeters, mainly for wine. Again, in that area, different reused amphorae were used to bury children. So in that case, we have Tripolitanian amphora and an Agora 55 amphora. Both of them were used to bury two little, like 7 or 9 months children inside. And it's one of the other cases here. But again, from this amphora, we can also see that we have a very wide range of imports coming from different parts of the Mediterranean to the site. Moving to Qom al-Ahmar, which is the larger site from Qom Wasit. Again, you can see here in the middle area, this is the area which was damaged by the Sabbakhin. So we can have here different 3 heights of the site. The central part and the area where there is a modern cemetery is high around 10 to 11 meters until today. This area is 5 meters, and the central one is below the level of the fields, and it's like 1 meter only above the sea level. So when we went to excavate in each area, we have different occupational phase. In the central high part, we have Byzantine and early Islamic materials. In the lowest part, we have late dynastic, Hellenistic, and the middle area we have 4th century AD Roman period. So which was good for us to be able to give a wide range of the occupation from the 5th century BC until the 11th century AD of the entire site. Photogrammetry was created for the site, and here we have the areas which were excavated. As you can see here, the central one is unit 6, which is the lowest area. In the central walls, we have 3 units from Byzantine and early Islamic period, and that area, which is one of the most interesting areas, is from the Roman period, from the 3rd to the 5th century AD. Starting with the lowest area, which was started only 2 years ago, Unit 6, as you can see, has the area surrounding, and it's just deep like that because of Sabbakhin. It's not natural depths. We started with 15 by 15 meters in that area to inspect what is in that period in that area of the site. And after 2 months, we had the remains of 4 different Hellenistic houses. So we did not catch any of complete house, but which this gave us an idea of what shall we do in the future in general. So here we have the sketch plan of house 1, house 2, house 3, and walls of different houses. The following year, we extended the entire area to become 36 meters by 32 meters. And this was the largest area which was ever excavated in the Delta at once. And because of that extension, we were able to have 4 different complete houses and the remains of another 11 houses in the entire area. All of them dated between the 4th century BC and the 2nd century BC. We have 2 different orientations of houses. So the first phase was abandoned and later on was built over with the second phase of houses. And you can see here how the orientation is different from the first phase, 4th century BC, which is house 10, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. And later on, different orientation was adjusted for the later houses of the 2nd century BC. It's an example of a photogrammetry of Unit 6 in 2018, and we will concentrate on that house here, which is the type of tower house, while the other houses are not tower house, they are ancient Egyptian style of houses. So after we made the extension, we could see the entire house in that way. This was fully excavated in 2019. The finds from that area, I'm not going into details in that area because it will take much time, are again interesting because we did not expect to find early materials in Qom al-Ahmar. We always thought that Qom al-Ahmar is the later period site, but we find here a 4th century BC amphorae, basket handle one, imported one, and Egyptian imitation of the same amphora, and Asian islands, small pots, argumentarium, and Egyptian imitation of Roman Hellenistic pottery. And one of the most important finds in that area in the site are coins, but we'll go to this point later. But here we have found only 2 silver coins of the site, both of them of Alexander the Great. One is minted in Greece, one minted in Alexandria, and the first one is a rare one because in all over Egypt we have only 3 examples of that coin. From all over the 2 sites, we have collected more than 1,600 coins in bronze, which we'll have a look on some of them later. Again, from Unit 6, which is the Hellenistic area, we have the same style of terracotta figurines for different horse riders, women, Persian riders, and here there was a statue, and because these are just the hair of a woman. Many of the objects have been drawn by Silvia Tinasio from University of Padua. And going again to the site, so this was Unit 6, moving to the Roman area, we can see what we have been working from 2014 until today. It's huge, 2 buildings, a Roman house and a Roman storage, and between them a small street. I'll not go into details here, but I would like to show that the earliest materials of from inside the Roman house, we have sand wool ware from Aswan and from Italian productions, which are dated to the 1st and 2nd century AD, and these are only coming from one room inside that house, room C, which is this room here. And of course, we have 2nd and 3rd century AD Egyptian amphora from that room, and coins from 276 and 297 AD. All of them are minted in Alexandria and Rome. So this room was the foundation of that house in the 3rd century AD. But Georgia Marchiori from Durham University, she's doing her PhD now on that area, and she's almost finishing. So she did reconstruction of how these houses look like, and the spaces outside the houses. We'll have a look here. Outside the house, we have different structures which were mainly used for animals and for like cows, chicken, etc. Because each house had its own. This is the street separating the house to the storage, and this storage is an amphorae storage dated to the 4th, 5th century AD. It was full of amphorae everywhere. This is 3 of the rooms, which you can see here. All the amphorae are Egyptian and imported from Gaza, 4th century AD, and from Turkey and Cyprus, late Roman 1 amphora. In total, we have around 300 complete amphora from the different rooms of the storage. And we have here, so from room B 106, room C 18, room B2, room E83, and room F12 amphorae. An example of room B and how the amphorae were found. All of them are intact, were not destroyed. As an example of the Egyptian amphora and from the imported amphora. And it's an example of room B of what was found inside that room. Besides all the different types of Egyptian amphora, we also have African red slave wares from the 4th and 3rd century AD, and 24 coins, all of them dated between 425 to 435 AD. Amazingly, in that area, we have around 800 coins, both from the house and from the storage area. All of them are dated, or the majority of them are dated from the 4th and 5th century AD. All of them have been studied and published in the first volume 2 years ago by Michele Azzolati from University of Padua and Cristina Crisafulli. So it's interesting situation in a Roman site in Egypt, because we don't have many sites where we have news of this quantity of coins concentrated in one area. When we noted the quantity of coins, we decided to map each coin coming from the site. So now we have the location of each coin by the total station, and we were also able to study the different levels of the coins and create a map in 3D for where is the position of the coins found in these two different structures. But I don't have this figure here. As normal from Roman houses, we have plaster. We don't have plaster mainly in Hellenistic houses, but only in the Roman house we have decorated plaster, like in Fayoum, like the major Roman houses. And this is an example again from what was found in room B, so Egyptian amphora, Gaza amphora, and late Roman 1 amphora. Only in Unit 4 we have too much quantity of Roman glass, and also jewelry in glass and rings in glass. And it's an example of what was found in that area of Unit 4, the Roman house and the storage. Moving to the central part of the site, which is the highest part here, we expect to find, of course, different materials, because we are at the last part of the occupation phases here, Byzantine and early Islamic. I'm not go into much details, but in one of the units we found a Byzantine cistern. We're not sure if it was for water or wine or for what exactly. But all the objects were found here were mainly coins and pottery dated to the 6th and 7th century AD. Second unit was excavated over 1 year only, and it was interpreted as an early Islamic cemetery because we have that structure, which seems to be one of the early monumental tombs, which was also found in Dakhla Oasis and in Aswan. And beside the structure, we found different bodies and Islamic pottery and Islamic lamps. So this is why we were assured. This is why we are sure now that the site was not abandoned by the arrival of the Arab, because the majority of historians, when they write about the Arab arrivals, they say all the sites have been abandoned by 641, but this is not true, because here we have an evidence that life continued after the arrival of the Arab in 641, and we have continuation until the 11th century AD. Besides the excavation, we're also doing drill auger to study the soil deposits and to study the presence of ancient canals and ancient rivers in the area. So over 2 years, Benjamin from University of Southampton joined our mission, and he was able to get the permission to analyze the soil in Ireland, Belfast. And we have one article published by himself about the result of that drill auger. Well, he has done 17 different drill auger all over the two sites, as you can see, and he was able to identify that during the late Roman period we have a major river passing through the two sites, which was wide around 70 meters, and there was an ancient river, more ancient than the two sites themselves, passing beneath Qom al-Ahmar at least. And there was a large lake in somewhere and different small canals around the area. This is a general view of the imports coming to Qom al-Ahmar from the 26th dynasty to the Hellenistic period. They are mainly coming from the Aegean area and from Cyprus and Turkey, but in the Roman period we have imports from North Africa and from Italy and from Tripolitanian area, and also from Turkey. And from the Byzantine late Roman period, we have only imports from Cyprus and Turkey, which is main, and Gaza, of course, the Gazan amphora and the late Roman 1 amphora, which is the highest number of the imports to the site. We were asked to build a symbolic wall around the site, so we just built 10 meters of a symbolic wall to show the entrance of the site. And we had an Italian artist came to the site 1 year, and she drew the wall with the main finds, the pottery and the Wajid eye, Horus eye. We will try to distribute what we found to the public. So while I was working in the Library of Alexandria, we were able to organize an exhibition for 7 sites in the Delta in 2016, and another one in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo with German mission in 2018. And later on, I have to thank all the team members, because over 10 years we had around over 100 archaeologists came from 15 different countries. Of course, it's not only my work, to the work the entire team. And to say to the co-directors of the mission, Cristina Mondin, Michela Zulati from Padova University, the field director, Giorgio Marchiori, and different other researchers who contributed in different way all over the last 10 years. And of course, the direct and indirect funds, which were able to provide us with some money to work all over these years. And finally, the team and the workers in the site who contributed with the majority of the work over the last 10 years. And I would like to thank you. Very fast, sorry.
Yeah, no, that leaves one more question, which we'll now open it up to really quickly. If you're joining us online at home, you can also participate in this section, of course. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and either type your question into the chat or use the raise hand feature. You've all been at online conferences, so you know how that works. Good. So let's keep it open and keep an eye on that. All right. Any questions we have on there ready for you, Mohamed? Go ahead.
Thank you. That was incredible sights. Really.
Thank you.
I really like the idea that you're talking about at the end about the symbolic walls. And I think that was really interesting. Whose idea was that? Was that his idea, your idea? Or
yeah, we wanted to show the inhabitants of the village that there is something here, because they cross the site every day without realizing that it's an archaeological site. So we just wanted to show that there is something here.
So were they really, the local inhabitants, were they really interested in the project whilst you were working there? Did they come? Did you employ people? Were they involved?
All the workers are from the village, and the wall was built by rubbish. So it's not built by bricks. It's just all the empty bottles which people use to drink water and Coca-Cola. We filled the bottles with mud, and we just sealed them, and we had cement only from outside, and that's it. So we used the rubbish to build it.
So what sort of, sorry,
this was the idea of a conservator. Her name is Luciana from London, in fact.
So what sort of sense did you get from the local people? Did they want to know more about the site, or were they interested, engaged? Did they see it as part of their heritage?
The workers are engaged more than anyone else because they are spending 8 hours every day on the site with us. But we were not really able to engage more than that for different reasons.
I have a question here. Yeah, so I have a question from Keith Rothan, who asks, presumably the primary export was grain. What were the main imports? Olive oil, wine?
I think there was exchange of for products, because also Egypt was producing olive oil and wine, but I think we're importing and exporting different types of olive oil and wines. So we know that from some, we don't know what type of products coming from North Africa, for example, but we know from Turkey we used to have wine, many wine. Different type, different quality of wine. So yeah, we are not sure really of what was inside the pots coming from different parts, because we're not able to do any chemical analysis until now.
So you said that the site stopped being used at around the 11th century AD. Is there any particular known reason for why?
The main reason for any site in the delta is the shifting of the main canal or the main river far away from the site, or the lack of maintenance of the canals. So if they don't clean the canals every year, fresh water will be blocked from coming to the area. You will not be able to cultivate, or the huge shift of the canal or the river far away. So we have Rosetta branch, which is only today 6 kilometers west of the site. In theory, it was passing by the site in the Hellenistic and Roman period. It shifted 6 kilometers. And the main reason that the entire Western Delta was abandoned in that period was the lack of maintenance of canals. And this is why 5 branches of the Nile River disappeared in the Delta in the medieval period. So originally we had seven branches, I know of only two.
Any other questions from the live audience?
Thank you for that really interesting site and lots of really rich material. And for me, coming as an outsider, I get curious and I want to ask you, what do you think is the most interesting aspect of this site? What do you think is the most important either object or observation that you've made from this site?
Well, if we're working in the Delta, we don't really care about objects because we don't find many objects like whoever was excavating in tombs or Upper Egypt, because the quality of the objects are less because of the water. There's water everywhere here. So the most interesting thing for us is first providing, or we wanted to understand why we have all this quantity of sites in this area and what relation we have between the Mediterranean world. So I think the most important thing for us was the commercial relations between the site and other parts of Egypt and Mediterranean ports in general.
We have another question from online. Again, Keith asks, does the large amount of Cypriot red slipware discovered at the site mean Cyprus was the primary trading destination, or was that restricted to a particular period?
This was particular to the late dynastic and early Hellenistic period. And again, as long as we did not excavate the entire site, we cannot give 100% information about the commercial situation, because as you can see, when we excavate in different parts of the site, we were able to have different type of information. So maybe when we excavate more in different parts, other different parts of the site, we can have more information about commercial connections, which we don't have today. So we cannot give a final answer about the percentage and of commercial between the site and other countries until we excavate more, of course.
Do you have plans to excavate more?
Yes, of course, hopefully.
I have another question for you, Mohammed. You might have said this already, but that temple, how far forward in time did it continue, do you think?
Not more than 500 years.
Okay, so to what year is that roughly?
The entire site, including the temple, abandoned by the late dynastic period, late Hellenistic period, early Roman period. So 1st century AD, there was no one living in the site. Okay. It was later reused as cemetery, and only in the 5th century AD, we started to find very little fragments of North African sigillata. So there was very little presence in the 5th century AD.
So would you say actually it's not really continuity, it's kind of gap and then starts again and stops again?
Yes.
Okay. And do you think that's the river moving back and forth? Or?
We are not really sure what happened in that side, because we have nothing at all for like 400 years, and then we start to have very little materials from the 5th century AD, mainly related to necropolis. So we are not sure why it was completely abandoned. We're not sure yet.
So I have one question online, then we'll move to Jose's question. Sure. So Laura asks, forgive my ignorance, but is it normal to bury babies in amphorae in this location, or is that particularly unusual? And were the objects you showed with them grave goods?
It's common to bury children inside reused amphorae because it was something easy to be found in any house. And in some other cases, which I saw in other sites, not here, children were buried inside the houses beneath one of the floors. So yeah, it's normal.
Okay. Jose?
Thank you very much for that. Following on a little with Brandon's question, also in light of what you were saying of all the changing water channel, do you have plans to do a landscape study to see how the site gets embedded in a wider landscape in the long-term period?
These studies have been done by others in the entire area, yes. So we know what happened by the 11th, 12th century in the entire area of North Delta and Eastern North and Western Delta. That the entire coast and all this area was completely abandoned from the 11th, 12th century until 200 years ago, until Muhammad Ali period. And the main reason was lack of water. And because fresh water stopped reaching this area, the soil became salty. So it was not useful anymore for cultivation. and with the first reclamation project by Muhammad Ali between 1805 and 1848, and later by the British engineers after 1882, and the Sabakhin works, it was possible again to cultivate that area.
You have a question over here.
So I was really interested in the architecture of the tower buildings. That was fascinating, but obviously with the extent to which they've been leveled down foundation, the foundations. Are there better preserved examples that allow us more knowledge of the kind of the superstructure of the houses? Because the rooms you were showing look very much like small cellars or small storage structures in the foundations.
From all over the Delta, we have the same situation, but we have better preservation of the same type of houses in Fayoum, in Karanis, which was excavated by Michigan University in 1930s, and also from Dakhla Oasis in Asmant al-Kharab, which is still, in both two sites, we still have 2 and 3 floors of these houses. And in Bakias in Fayoum also, there was another mission working there and excavated a house which was still 3 floors standing, because it's sandy area, so it did not really get affected because of the water here.
What was the access into those cellar rooms? Were they accessed by ladders?
By ladders, yes.
Thank you. Well, I did have a question about the coins. Why did the person or the persons who dropped all those coins on the floor not pick them up again?
So that we are lucky to find them, I think. As I said before, in the entire site, we had the movement of Sabakhin. So in that area, they might just hit higher floors where there was jars with coins, or just preservation, a room with some coins and they spread during the work, or because this was a commercial area. So they were just lost by time, and this is the only reason. But mainly, I think, because of Sabakhin work. But in that area, we have 800. But from all over the site, we have 1,500, 1,600 coins. So anyway, we have a large amount of coins also coming from other parts of the city, from the houses, from the temple area, very rare from the temple area, but from the houses mainly.
Do you think that they accumulated over time rather than this being an abandonment?
Sorry?
They accumulated over time rather than it being an abandonment phase?
Yes. And the majority of them are Roman coins, and late Roman coins, of course. So if I remember, we're over 1,200 coins are Roman and late Roman, which is very interesting because, again, we don't have this type of finds from other Roman sites in Egypt, because we don't have many sites excavated in the Roman period in Egypt. So from all over the Delta, we have only 2 or 3 publications of excavation of Roman sites. The majority are from different periods, but not from Roman period.
So you said that there was a lot of trade going on with Gaza at the
Yes.
time. Was the trade exclusive to the city of Gaza, or was it also with the rest of the Palestinian lands? And if so, is that reason why that would be?
We say Gaza because this is a type of amphora was produced in Gaza, and there are four different amphorae identified with Gazan production in the 3rd and 4th century AD. If we have other materials coming from other parts of Palestine, we are not sure, because we don't have information from the production area, of course.
Any other questions? Still a good 10 minutes. If you have a question you're dying to ask.
No more questions.
Okay. In that case, I have no problem wrapping up early. Yeah. And if you do have any questions that you're shy about, you can join Mohamed at the Marcus Waddington, and you can ambush him and ask him a question there. Yeah. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mohamed, also especially for coming and speaking with us today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, we're back next week, and again, we have a presentation every Wednesday up until the 30th of March. Anyone here is very welcome to join us at the Marcus Wellington. And can we have one final round of applause, please, for Dr. Kenawi?
Thank you.